Hola, buen dia, it's me, Peppermint. And when I'm not on RuPaul's Drag Race or simply being New York City's sweetest diva, I'm tuned into the fabulously empowering Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice Power Hour, coming to you every weeknight at 7 p.m. live from our good old friends at the BRCSJ Virtual HQ via their Facebook page. Tune in tonight.
Need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.
Social justice, power hour, power hour, power hour. Social justice.
Good evening to our friends on the East Coast. Good afternoon to our friends in the West, and good in-between time to our friends in those in-between spaces. Welcome, 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 my friends. Welcome to the Social Justice Power Hour. Welcome to the virtual headquarters of the Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice. My name is Robert Seda Schreiber. I'm the chief actress here and your host for this evening, as I have been for the past year and 8+ months. Over 400 some odd shows, many of them very odd indeed. Coming at you live every frequent weeknight since the pandemic started, without missing one beat, without missing one night. And that's why we decided to do these Throwback Thursdays, so you can bring back some meaningful moments of the Power Hour. Tonight's very special. We continue our celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month with Poets for Puerto Rico co-founder Denice Frohman. A wonderful conversation we're thrilled to bring back to you tonight. But speaking of bringing you back, we want you to come back to the Power Hour. As I said at the outset, we are here 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific every single weeknight. So I'm going to give you some highlights, just some highlights, my friends, of what's coming up in the Power Hour. So you can join us, so you can be with us, so you can share meaningful moments of the future as we look to the past of what we've done as well. So here's what's coming up on the Power Hour, my friends. Gosh, get ready. Charisma Price, wonderful poet, powerful voice. OG Radical of the Real, one of the greatest minds of our generation, Adam Gopnik. Black Boy Joy, y'all. Kwame Umbalia will be with us to celebrate some Black Boy Joy. Speaking of celebrating, we're celebrating Jim Henson's birthday with his biographer, Brian J. Jones. Always a treat when Brian's with us. What a wonderful event that's going to be. Speaking of Throwback Thursdays, like we're doing tonight, we're also going to bring back Dr. Eric Cervini, queer historian, April Rain, Oscars So White, Amanda Jette Knox. Love Lives Here, the story of her transgender family, and honestly, one of my favorite episodes when author and inspiration David Camp of Sunny Days, children's television revolution during the 70s, brought with him some really special guests. Bernadette Yao from Zoom and Amelia Delgado, a.k.a. Luis from Sesame Street. Make sure you tune in for that very, very special Social Justice Power Hour. Wesley Stace, a.k.a. John Wesley Harding, and a musician I have been a fan of for years and years and years. Good friend of the show now, and we have a very special announcement coming up, so stay tuned, true believers, and listen up for that. We do our queer yoga every single Tuesday. Our queer yoga master, Jasmani, brings us to virtual nirvana. Please join us for taking a breath, both literally and figuratively, in virtual communion with us. Dr. Pernille Joseph, a good friend, stalwart ally, and our BRCSJ Board of Directors Vice President. We're thrilled and honored by his belief in our mission and what he brings to our center. And the author, of course, of Sword and the Shield, that incredible book that explores the dichotomy and the similarity of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. He'll be here on the eve of that paperback release, and we're honored to have him back, as we always are. And speaking of honored and having back, Jill Sobule, y'all, our musician in residence here at the Power Hour. She'll be here Friday night, tomorrow night, to ease us into the weekend in concert, in conversation, and in anticipation of her coming back to us live in concert, masked and vaxxed, entirely safe, entirely fabulous. Please join us October 7th. She's doing a benefit concert, only area appearance, helping us find a new home. We lost our headquarters during the pandemic. We're looking to find a new space. Hard to be a safe space without a space, my friends. So please join us. Help us find a new home for our community, for our friends, for our family, for everybody who needs that way to come together again in the new normal. As we did in the before times, we look to come back even more powerfully, even more meaningfully, even more fabulously. And Jill's going to help us do that. And you're going to help us do it by coming to the concert, and make sure you get your tickets for the after party. Hang out with Jill, have some coffee, dessert, enjoy some time with us in community. So please do join us for all that, and please do come back here to the Power Hour. As I said at the outset, we are 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, every single freaking weeknight. We look forward to having you back here in virtual communion, but let's enjoy tonight's show. Again, in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, bringing back to y'all Denice Frohman from Poets from Puerto Rico. Was an extraordinary conversation, and if you're seeing it for the first time, enjoy, my friends, and be seeing it for the second, catch all those subtle nuances. Either way, you're in for a treat tonight. Thanks for being with us. Much love and respect. I'll see you on the other side. Tonight, we have something special. And I want to say this before I start the introduction. We're at a point now where we're meeting folks. I'm meeting folks for the first time as they come on the show. These are busy folks. These are important folks. These are wonderful folks doing incredible work every single day. And oftentimes, I don't get to meet them until 5 minutes before they come to the green room, so to speak, and we have a little chat. And you never know what to expect. Denice and I had such a lovely chat. It was literally 3 minutes, but I could just tell this is going to be a special Power Hour. Denice is an award-winning poet, performer, and educator. Her work is focused on social change and seeks to challenge the borders that divide us. As a queer woman from a multicultural background, her work is about identity, deconstructing dominant social constructs, challenging oppressive narratives, and claiming the power to be who we are. Denice hopes to inspire people, particularly young queer people of color, to know that their stories are worth telling, and has worked to create safe spaces for them to discover the power of their own voices. Denice co-organized Poets for Puerto Rico, raised thousands of dollars for grassroots relief efforts, and raised consciousness about the ongoing political, economic, and environmental disasters on the island. Denice has performed on both national and international stages, including the White House, the Brooklyn Museum, the Apollo, Lincoln Center, the U.S. Hispanic Leadership Institute, and over 200 colleges and universities. Even more so, Denice was part of a wonderful She Inspires Me campaign that was sponsored by Twitter that was shown during the Oscars. And I want to show you that piece that she did, which is called A Woman's Place.
I heard a woman becomes herself the first time she speaks without permission. Then every word out her mouth a riot. Say beautiful and point to the map of your body. Say brave and wear your skin like a gown or a suit. Say hero and cast yourself in the lead role. When a girl pronounces her own name, there is glory. When a woman tells her own story, she lives forever. All the women I know are perennials, marigolds, daffodils, soft things that refuse to die. If this poem is the only thing that survives me, tell them this is how I happened. Tell them I grew a new tongue. Tell them I built me a throne. Tell them when we discovered life on another planet, it was a woman, and she built a bridge, not a border. I heard this is how you make history. This is how you create a new world.
And with that, my friends, please welcome to our virtual stage, a great honor and a thrill and a pleasure, Denice Frohman, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
So great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor. And I want to tell also folks, I like to tell these behind the scenes little tidbits so people understand the kind of folks we're talking to. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, slap me virtually on the hand, but I'm pretty sure that I DM'd you on Twitter after I read something that you had written, and you immediately, with your 22-some thousand followers, you immediately responded saying, I dig this the most. I'll be there whenever you want me. Let me know, and let's make it happen. And that, to me, shows your sense of community and your sense of wanting to empower young folks and all our folks across the spectrum.
Absolutely. I mean, I when I saw your DM, it was just a yes for me automatically. To be part of anything that the Bayard Wrestling Center is doing, to know that the mission is about uplifting LGBTQIA young folks and community at large, is going to be a yes for me. So it's just truly a thrill to be in conversation with you, and shout out to everybody watching from home.
And also, I want to, as always, name names and give thanks. Your assistant name is Nia, right?
Yes, shout out to Nia.
I want to thank Nia. She has facilitated. And I'm sorry, I don't know. Is that her pronoun? I apologize. I want to make sure all right.
She did.
So they have been wonderful in facilitating your appearance and with emails and getting me the information we need. So a big shout out to Nia too. Thank you, Nia, very much.
Yes.
So Denice, tell us, you have an incredible journey. And from what I see, your talent has been recognized, but every time your talent gets recognized, you make sure that you're bringing along authentic voices and you're making sure it's empowering others as you move forward in your journey. How do you do that? Because there are so many people that get lost in the recognition factor of it. There are so many people that get lost in the spotlight of it and the glamour of it. And you have never, and I've watched you grow in what you do, you've never lost sight of who you're really speaking for, and it's never yourself.
Wow, that's such a great compliment, and makes me feel really seen, because I did an interview a couple weeks ago where someone asked me for the first time, how do you want to be remembered? And I almost feel too young to answer that question. But community really matters to me. And I grew up in team sports. I grew up where you are a part of something much larger than you. I grew up with a value system that said that if you are just going at it alone, you are not doing it right. It's about walking through a door and understanding that someone cracked that door open for you, and that you have a responsibility to crack that door open a little bit wider for those who hopefully will be coming after you. So, honestly, it's just kind of the way I've always been. And I feel uncomfortable sort of walking it alone, because it just doesn't feel true to what my experience has been. I would not be here if it weren't for so many people who believed in me, who continue to believe in me, who showed me the way, and who inspire me and shape, my work, not only as a poet, but, as a member of many communities, and as an educator and performer and an artist at large. So I wish that that was celebrated more. I wish that we live in a social media driven culture where the economy of attention can warp our minds. And I just never want to lose sight of why I do this and who I do it for. And I really think about all of the young people who might be watching me. And it makes me think of one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got from my father was, you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching. And he would say that to me when I would be, I grew up playing, basketball since I was a kid. And he would always say when I would get frustrated, when I would say, nobody's here, there's only 3 people in the stands. And I would kind of not put in my all to the game. He would say, you don't know who those 3 people are or who they will become. And so he raised me with the sense of this motto of, you never know who's watching. And I really carry that with me in all the spaces that I'm in. You just never know, whether that's 3 people in an audience or 300 or 3,000 people in an audience. Anytime you get the privilege to touch a mic, it really is an honor. And you always have an opportunity to uplift and inspire and speak truth. And that's something I try to do.
I don't want to throw shade at the other interviewer a couple of weeks back, but to me, that question of how do you want to be remembered, it's you seem to not only say it, but shout it, spit it in each and every poem you write and every time you speak. So it's curious to me. To me, it just seems like that's the end-all be-all to what you do. And
Yeah.
is how you want to be remembered is that there were these folks who led the way for you, and now you want to lead the way for others, and you want to make sure that when it is your last poem, when it is your last time at the mic, that's open for that next individual. And I think that's what I read from your work. That's what I see in your work. That's what I hear you speak in your work, and you just put a voice to it as well. There's so many threads I want to pull at. I want to do this first, and forgive me, but I was watching, I don't know if you watch Lovecraft Country, but
Not yet.
all right. So
I'm going to get it.
And last night there was an episode where the character traveled through time, and no spoilers, but it was all about her finding her voice and her identity and making sure that she was seen. And that was her power. And it almost seemed like that was her superpower. And I have to say, sitting on the couch watching the episode, I couldn't help but think of your work. And I was chomping at the bit thinking about, gosh, I have to wait 24 hours to have this conversation. But it's so reminiscent of, she just had to speak her name, and that's how she traveled, not through time per se, but through space or through her identity even. And it's an amazing journey that we're having right now. I thought it was so telling. I think that's what we're doing right now as a country, finding our voice, refinding our voice, or maybe for the first time, really acknowledging that there's been a lack of a voice.
Right. I mean, we are in such a deep and necessary reckoning as a country. And I've been thinking a lot about what the artist's role is, and then leaning on and returning to, Gwendolyn Brooks and Lucille Clifton and June Jordan, or turning to Tatiana de la Tierra, turning back to always Anzaldúa, Audre Lorde, just really sitting with poets who really spoke to the moment at hand. And America has always had an identity crisis. It has never really known what to call itself. And it has attempted, it was built by exclusion and on stolen land. And when you begin anything sort of with a value system that says some people are worthy and other people are not, I mean, there has to come a time where you have to reckon with that. We've had iterations and waves, generation after generation has sort of the baton in their hands. And I think we're seeing this generation pick up the baton and run with it. What I love about young people is that they are not here for bureaucracy. They are not here for your excuses or your feelings. They care about the environment. They care about the world that they're in and stepping into. They care about their schools. They care about having police-free schools and having safe communities, and making sure that their parents, whether or not they're undocumented, are safe and seen and can live lives that recognize their dignity. Young people are talking about gender in ways, and gender expression and sexuality in ways that I could only dream of when I was in high school or middle school, that I didn't have the language for. And so, as much as this is a really difficult time, and as much as white supremacy is being given a larger and larger platform, the thing that gives me hope is just community, and the young people that I listen to and have worked with for many, many years, who have a clarity and strength about them, a wisdom far beyond their years. And I just can only hope that we continue to build multiracial, intergenerational movements, and continue to, raise our voices and really reckon with our choices. I know for me, I've been thinking about even in a deeper way, like what am I buying? Where does that come from? Right? Like, what am I doing with my attention? Who am I giving it to? And just really wanting to give my attention, my energy, my time, my dollars to the causes and the people that reflect the values of a more inclusive world, one that centers people who've historically been marginalized. And I really don't think we'll make it, much longer otherwise. I think we have to step into that new iteration. We have to evolve. We have to shift, because one of the things that I think about with poetry all the time, and I think why one of the many reasons why it sort of grounds me in the collective is because James Lagenbach talks about, he's a poet critic. He talks about lines only exist in relation to other lines, right? If you have one line, okay, perhaps you can understand what that line is saying. But if you have a second or third or fourth line, then it creates a more cohesive picture for you. The first line in a poem really can't make meaning without the last line in the poem, right? And so I think about our organizing strategies. I think about how the natural world mimics so many, it is its own movement, it's its own organizational body that has its own rules and can regenerate in miraculous ways and ways that humble me. And so sort of in the moment of deep despair, deep sadness, deep grief at so much that we've lost, I try to turn to things that speak regeneration, that speak transformation, and remind myself and reminded by others that it truly doesn't have to be this way, that this is a deliberate choice those in power are making, and that the world we have is a manifestation of their dreams, of their visions, and we need to change. We need to change that. And so those are the things I've been kind of thinking about a lot lately.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal how the young people have stepped up. I think that very early on we had vigil here for George Floyd, and it was organized in a very small town, Cranberry. And it seemed like even more than the actual population of that town showed up. And it was all organized by a high school student. Her name was Izzy. I want to call her name. And Izzy organized it entirely herself, got all the speakers, got all the folks involved, got all the people there. And it was so inspiring early on. And it was something that really was so important for so many people to see and to feel and to be a part of. And I think that you're right. That's how we see the future, and we can be hopeful. You and I are very simpatico in that. When I see so many people around me losing hope, and I understand why, and I see so many people being desolate and being despondent and not understanding how we're going to move forward from this, I am with you in that I see a tremendous opportunity, especially from and in our young people who are showing up in the streets, who are doing what needs to be done, and with people like you then to guide them and move them forward is, I think, how it really works, to utilize their strength and their hope and their spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I have no, no lullaby to sing. I have no sort of, I don't think this is easy, or I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have all the answers. But I'm trying to just center myself on the things that make me feel alive, that make my loved ones feel alive, and continue to fight. And we have to, every one of us, we have to find our place, in this movement, and really try to make a change, because it's a scary time when you see white supremacists, white nationalists running around cities with, AK-47s strapped to their bodies. People have died at these protests. When you see police departments continue to act reckless and lawless and not be accountable for what happened to Breonna Taylor or Elijah McClain. and so many, too many other beautiful lives that were lost. And it's enraging. And so, for me, I think about, well, how can I bring this conversation deeper into myself? And how do I bring this conversation to those that I love who may need to deepen their critical thinking, may need to sharpen some of their tools, and really ask direct and harder questions of the systems and the institutions that are, harming so many that we love. And I can't, these are things we're not taught. We're not, our public education system does not teach civic engagement. Our public education system is, oftentimes is regurgitating a very whitewashed history. I saw something on social media the other day that's been getting circulated. Like, folks are being asked to vote and sort of inundated with voting as the thing to do right now, and it's absolutely important. But then the meme said, but nobody is telling people. It was like, vote because your ancestors fought for the right for you to vote. But no one is saying, become a revolutionary because your ancestors were revolutionaries, right? And so I think about how, we need a bolder, we need a bolder sort of vision. And I love what abolitionists in my life are teaching me so much right now. I'm on my journey, my young baby abolitionist journey, really trying to sort of break through what I think is possible. Do we need a world with prisons? What does if I were to rethink public safety, what would that look like, right? And sort of breaking that space in my imagination is really freeing. And so I'm sort of in my own way deepening my understanding of what's going on, but we absolutely, all of us need to stand up. For sure, in our own communities.
There are two things that I want to get to from that, and there's so many other things I want to get to above and beyond, but the two things are this. One is I keep hearing people say the system is broken, and I disagree wholeheartedly. I think the system is working exactly the way it was established, the way it's supposed to work, and that's the problem. In Breonna Taylor's, when there's more punishment for destroying property than human life, then that's not a break in the system. The system is doing exactly what it was always set up to do, right? So then because it's not about fixing it, it's about dismantling it and building it back up in the way that's really going to benefit everybody who lives in this country.
And that's what I appreciate about organizers. They really are pushing the conversation from reform to replacing this system, right? Just naming and pointing out how fundamental it's not working for us. It is not working. It is creating incredible harm, and this is intentional. It's to your point. The system is not broken. It is doing what it was designed to do. I don't know how many videos we shouldn't need. I don't need to see any more videos. I don't need, we shouldn't need any more proof. We need to listen to the voices who are closest to the pain. We need to listen to Black people, Black organizers, and really step to the side because, I can't imagine the trauma that this is inflicting. And I stand in full solidarity with the demands of the movement for Black lives and for the greater calls to really rethink public safety in this country.
And then the other part that you mentioned that is more difficult, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and you are certainly not a spokesperson, or you are not someone who, this is not your responsibility, but this is something I know that is very near and dear to your heart and your soul. And you said that having difficult conversations with your family, and it's one thing for you or I at, we're in somewhat different stages in our life, but we're able to have conversations with our families probably in an easier way than the youth are. And I get concerned. I have a lot of young people who say to me, how do I have this conversation with my parents? How do I have this conversation with my uncle? How do I have this conversation with my boss even? People in power, whether it's familial or, job related. Do you have anything that you can offer especially these young people, or even, people like us who, we are now seeing also the rifts in what we may not have noticed before in the relationships that we have that are interpersonal, that are familial, that are professional, and we're seeing almost all of the cracks now.
I think it's, non-Black people have to have this conversation and have it with their friends, with themselves, and with their family. And that's something that I have been reflecting on for a while, and have had with myself, my friends, and my family. And it's not easy. And it's also not a one-time conversation. I have to believe in people's capacity to change, as I have to believe in my own capacity to grow and change, and hope that when I get it wrong, I'm given, the space to grow, right? And especially in the Latino, Latinx community, these are things that are not covered on Spanish television, and they're not covered centering the voices of Afro-Latinx people. And so if we think our families if they're relying on Spanish television to educate them, there's even a greater call to have those conversations, right? And to sort of interrupt some of the stereotypes that they're watching, or some of the things that they're even hearing about this moment, for Black lives, this movement rather for Black lives. And so it's a conversation that I have with my family, all of my family members, and it's one that I return back to, and sort of point them when I feel at my wit's end, try to point them in the right direction of voices and videos that they can watch, and it's, these things exist on a spectrum, right? There are a number of people who have Black Lives Matter signs in their windows, but have actually not interrogated the choice of what that means in their life, right? Like there are people who have, and that's, I think, one of the biggest things that this movement is calling for, right? Like a deeper reckoning, not just a reckoning, but a deeper, more intentional reckoning where there are no outs. You actually have to stare at yourself in the mirror and think about how you show up in the world and how you relate to other people, and whether, there are these symbolic gestures, right? And what I hear activists saying is that's not enough, right? We have companies putting out corporate statements, and yet most of their, staff members and boards and those in executive positions are white men, white cis men, right? And so I think there are, all of us need to continue to reflect, and it's not easy. And to the young people, I tip my hat. This can't be easy to not only deal with in your own lives and deal with at school and in communities, but also to go home. And you might have a racist family member, or somebody who has not interrogated sort of their idea of themselves and how they relate to people of color, to Black people, to Indigenous people. And we really have to root out anti-Blackness. We have to point it out. And one of the things that I always hold in my body is to try to just not make it a one-time event. If no one changes overnight, and so to just say, okay, I planted the seed, and hopefully it grows. And it's my responsibility, because there's an elasticity that love provides, right? Like, what other dynamic other than an intimate relationship, whether that be an intimate familial relationship, an intimate friendship relationship, or an intimate, an intimate romantic relationship, that within it exists a love that allows for an elasticity of the relationship, right? So we can bang out, we have to return back to each other, right? And that's why it's like, you know, I'm probably gonna have the best opportunity to get into and affect how my father, my mother, my uncle, my aunt, my titi, like how they think about anti-Black violence, how they think about this movement and what this movement is really about, which is to me a great call of love that Black people have for themselves to say enough is enough, and that it is all of our responsibilities to stand in solidarity with them and do what we have to do. So I think about that elasticity a lot. And I think about what it provides us and how it provides opportunities for us to just return back to each other when it gets tough. And of course, that's not a blanket rule, you know, especially when it comes to familiar relationships. Everyone has, different situations, but, provided that you are in relation with someone that you are, family with, chosen or otherwise, or family of origin, I think it's really an opportunity to, to have their ear and to plant that seed that may not grow. You may not know it's growing, but hopefully it is. And, you can just, I just have to keep trying. I just have to keep trying. And as I learn and grow, hope that others do too.
I love what your phraseology there. And of course, the words come so meaningful to you. The elasticity. I love that. You used it a few times in what you said. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing to think of, that we are able to grow and to look at the dimensionality of our relationships and how we can fit in and we can make meaningful change together. But it does take time. And I think that one of the things I'm hearing you say is patience, is having these conversations. It's not a one-time conversation. It's something that grows and evolves and builds. And you have to invest.
Absolutely. We have to, it's on us. It's on us to, talk about transphobia. It's on us to, talk about anti-Black violence. It's on us to talk about how undocumented families are being separated. It really, I just think that we can't, it's not the job of those who are being traumatized and harmed to always be educating us or educating other people. And so I don't believe in being passive in this movement. I think we all have to be active participants, and there is no shortage. There's no shortage of ways to do not just good, because I think that whiteness is obsessed with this idea of goodness, but to actually make an intentional impact right now. And I think that's important.
And what further gives me hope is that from the very beginning of, we were dealing with the pandemic, and then we were faced with the epidemic of systemic racism, right? And we were hit with example after example, as you said, video after video, right? The evidence was overpowering. But what was hopeful to me was almost from the very start, how like never before, these rallies and vigils and protests and marches and events of all size, shape, and dimension, they were all inclusive, like I had never seen before. You're talking about something like what Raquel Willis was one of the organizers with many other folks at the Brooklyn Black Trans Lives rally, which, gathered together tens of thousands of people, and there's never been a moment that I can think of, and, that has been so all-inclusive. There's always been these moments where okay, we're going to push this community forward because it's an either emergent or it's of the moment, or it's important that we have these voices heard. But right now it seems like for the first time ever in my life that everybody's being heard and everybody's realizing that our struggles are equivocal, that our struggles are not unique, that they are not the same either, but they are better when heard together.
Right. And they're connected, and our liberation is connected too, you know? And so I'm not surprised that, I mean, also there's so much on the line, right? So many aspects of our lives that are being compromised, that are being attacked, whether we talk about LGBT rights or women's or reproductive rights, or just the entirety of our civil rights. When you talk about the environment, I mean, really it feels like everything is on the line. And, you know, that we are sort of, you know, sort of the whatever train that as a country we were coasting on, right? That train has stopped, and people are saying we're not coasting anymore, and we cannot continue. And so there's definitely, you know, this administration did not originate racism, or they're not the first to enact it. There's also not just one person in the White House that is actively promoting and enacting policies that are racist. There's a whole team around the president, whole advisors, whole departments, and you know, dictators need people to follow along, and so I think it's, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that we're going to fight, and that we're fighting. There are a lot of people doing incredible work, you know, so that we really can have a world that that is reflective of the dignity of all of our communities. Because I believe we deserve so much better. We deserve so much better. And you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I'm going to be a part of it one way or another.
Indeed. So I want to talk about Poets for Puerto Rico now. I want to talk about this incredible movement that you helped to co-organize, because to me, and I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about this aspect of things, but to me, Puerto Rico is like a microcosm of what we could achieve here in this country. And I say this because my family and I went to Puerto Rico about a year and a half ago to support the island, to have some time away, but to be, you know, still active. And we weren't sure what to expect. You know, water wasn't still running everywhere. People weren't still in their houses. There was so much that was still, you know, in decimation. But what we saw was incredibly inspirational. We saw communities coming together, and we saw places where we went to a neighborhood where almost everything was shut down, or almost everything had closed. But what happened was, amazingly, everything had reopened, and it was all these young people who were creating new spaces. You know, music on the streets, and there was a library on the street, and there were all these restaurants that were serving vegan food and different types of cuisine to experiment and to grow and to evolve. And this community, I thought, here is the future. Here is what we can accomplish. Out of this tragedy, people are building anew and taking the opportunity and seizing this moment so we can make the world a better place. And I thought this is the microcosm.
Yeah, I mean, it that flies in the face of what we're told about Puerto Rico, both now and historically, right? When you are a colonial subject, you are taught about yourself that you have no language worth speaking, you have no culture worth saving, you have no skills, right? Puerto Ricans have been told they're lazy and docile, right? In order to justify the U.S., who invaded the island after Spain was in power, and it had invaded it first. They basically just changed hands, and the United States quickly came in with a business plan, right? And there has been a pattern of extraction, of imposition, of you don't get a say in what happens to you because you can't govern yourself. You're not smart enough. You're not capable enough. So when you went to Puerto Rico and saw all these young people sort of opening up shops and sort of these vibrant neighborhoods in the midst of decades-long debt that was largely created by the U.S., by austerity measures, by Hurricane Maria that devastated the island and caused not only over 4,645 deaths, but the largest blackout in U.S. history. Like you say, well, how? It's surprising. And it's something Puerto Ricans are told about themselves. It's something that my Puerto Rican family, we're taught about ourselves, right? That we have nothing to offer. That the reasons we don't have vibrant farming is because young people don't want to farm. It's not true. It's not true. The United States, very quickly after they invaded, bought up a lot of the land, recognized the value and the opportunity, the economic opportunity, to make a dollar. And, there is an incredible movement of young people who are brilliant and talented and have ideas and have the capacity and the skill to manifest them. And so I think I love that you shared that story, because more people need to know. Not just Puerto Ricans are resilient. I'm kind of done with that word resilient. I'm more interested in resistance, but not just that Puerto Ricans are resilient and, oh, look at how we protest and, oh, look at how we wave our flag and like wepa, right? Like, okay, but also let's actually like have a conversation that centers the voices of Puerto Ricans, that recognizes in the midst of not just the worst hurricane in nearly a century, but let's pull the veil. Maria pulled the veil back about what the true relationship between the U.S. and Puerto Rico is. And it's colonialism. And it is a system that says you're not smart enough to govern yourself, right? That's the narrative I'm going to tell you. And meanwhile, I'm going to take all of your resources and then tell you that you're dependent on me, right? While giving tax breaks to United States corporations and businessmen, right? So, I mean, there's so much that I could say about, the conversations that I think need to be had about Puerto Rico. But I guess I'll sort of finish with this. I think every time the Electoral College comes up, I log online and see Puerto Rico is trending. And at this point, it's no surprise why. There is typically some non-Puerto Rican, typically some white cis dude who is saying, and make Puerto Rico a state, without understanding the implications of that, or perhaps maybe what Puerto Ricans actually want for themselves. And it's really frustrating. Puerto Rico is not a pawn. It is not a chip in the political game. This is an island and a culture and a people and a history that has value. And I believe in self-determination, and we really should be letting Puerto Ricans on the island lead that conversation. And it's really frustrating to sort of see folks tweet things out sort of haphazardly without sort of doing the deeper dive into the Puerto Rican history and how we got here, and the U.S. policies that really crippled and continue to cripple progress, and should I call it recovery in quotes. And so, it's frustrating, but also Puerto Rico's been ignored for so long that I think it's about time we educate folks on exactly what's going on the island, and really the United States' responsibility and hand in in sort of contributing and being a central piece of why it's been such such a struggle.
Is there a couple of things? I know this is an incredibly thorny issue, and it's complicated, with a capital COMPLICATED. But is there some direct action that we can look toward? Is there something that we can do as a community in the future?
I think number one is just reading up on Puerto Rican history. There's a number of excellent books and resources. Anything Ed Morales has written. There's a book called The War Against All Puerto Ricans, which cracked open my mind. There's another book that I have here. Actually, this is Ed Morales, Fantasy Island. That really just kind of sort of connects the dots. I also think folks should read up on the recent legislation that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Nidia Velázquez proposed, I believe it's called the Puerto Rico Self-Determination Act, which actually calls for a process, a fair process for Puerto Ricans to begin identifying and learning about what their options are when it comes to their political status. So that is a huge step forward. I think it's also important to really interrogate and look at the Jones Act, which is a decades-old law from 1920, from the 1920s, that basically mandated that any imports and exports in and out of Puerto Rico must be on an American-made, American-manned ship. Why am I saying this? Why is this important? Because it makes everything in Puerto Rico more expensive, because Puerto Rico cannot do business with other countries directly. They cannot find, they're not even allowed to get imported things or exported goods from other countries. It's literally perpetuated the debt that they're in, right? And so the Jones Act is a big, there's a big call around ending the Jones Act, around auditing the debt that many say are illegal, and so on and so forth. So I could continue and go on, but I think those are good places to start.
I appreciate that. So again, just one more time, can you show us the book just so everybody can see it? And
yeah.
Our volunteer, can you just, it's Fantasy Island by Ed Morales. And what we're going to do is we have a bookshop.org list of important books. Usually authors have been on the show, but these are books I'd like to get on that list as well.
Okay, I have to add one more. Okay. Aftershocks. Yarimar Bonilla and Marisol Lebron are two scholars who are incredible. They're doing incredible work to really talk about Puerto Rico and, should I say, quote unquote, post-Maria. So this is called Aftershocks of Disaster, Puerto Rico Before and After the Storm. This just came out this year, and I can't recommend it enough. There's poems in here and essays and all of that.
Any poems of yours?
No, not of mine, because I declined. I wanted to make space. Back to our first question. This was when Poets for Puerto Rico was in the middle of our organizing, and I thought I was getting a lot of attention already. So I thought, I deferred and let other voices it's incredible poets who deserve to be in this book. So I just felt more comfortable with that. So yes.
You're incredible. So what I'll do is I'm going to buy the book. I'm going to print out one of your poems. I'm going to slip it in the book. That's what I'm going to do.
There we go.
So I'm going to get those books on the bookshop.org list after the show, everybody in our community. So please, that we have the books up there already, and I'll make sure those books are available to you so you can get them out and you can learn and take a deeper dive, as Denice says, to really understand the entirety of the situation and be informed, and then make your own choices on what you think might be best. For our country, for Puerto Rico, for its citizens. So that's wonderful information. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is Poets for Puerto Rico still doing its good work?
Poets for Puerto Rico is sort of in a holding place. We were really thrown in for quite some time into organizing. And I have myself and some of the other organizers threw ourselves into the work. And I think we also went a couple of years ago, a group of us organized a trip down to the island because we also want to continue to build bridges between Puerto Rican poets who live stateside and Puerto Rican poets who live on the island. So that's something that we did. But Puerto Rico is on pause right now, but it is going to continue. I have ideas, I have dreams, I have visions, and we know that the call for liberation and self-determination for Puerto Rico is never over. So the work is not done. And so I look forward to continuing it when the right time comes and sort of when I can get my bearings and sort of organize again.
Well, you let us know if there's anything the center can do as an entity or myself personally. I am there, and I would be thrilled to be of any service whatsoever.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And
I know you don't. I know you don't like to raise yourself up, but I know that our community would love to read more of your work, to see more of you. Where's the best place to find your work, and where's the best place to find you? I know that Chris has been throwing up all your links on Twitter, and you have a web page, but I want to hear from you. Where's the best place we can support you?
The best place is to connect with me right now on Twitter and Instagram. That's where I sort of repost poems and videos. I just did 2 videos with the Brinkerhoff Foundation. We created 2 poetry films together, and that's on Instagram. And so you can check those out. I'm working on my debut poetry manuscript, so I'll have updates on social media soon. And then, I think my website is the best place to sort of watch videos or, read poems that have been published online and elsewhere. I'm in a couple of anthologies in print, including Queer Poets of Color, another great anthology, and Women of Resistance. And actually, this really awesome, badass anthology just came out. It's called Latinx. It is a anthology of contemporary Latinx poets, edited by Poets for Puerto Rico founder Willie Perdomo, along with Jose Olivares and Felicia Chavez. So I'm in here.
Okay. I like that very much. We're definitely going to do that one for a social justice library, and we'll have that at thebookshop.org in the next hour after the show. We'll get that right away. This has been so wonderful. I want to thank you so much for your time, your energy, your spirit, what you bring to our community, what you bring to so many communities. I think that you really encompass what Bayard Rustin always wanted to move forward. I always say he was the godfather of intersectionality before intersectionality was even a term, 20 years before it was coined. He was doing the work, and now I feel that you are taking up that mantle with all you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. That's a huge compliment. And all the best to the center, and all the best to everybody watching. Stay safe, and thanks for having me. This was an amazing conversation.
And I'm not putting any pressure on you. You're not in the spot. You don't have to answer now. But one of the things that's really important to me personally, and the center as an entity, is that we hope that come election day, we'll see a turnover. We hope not that we're endorsing any candidate. We're not lobbying for anybody. Our 501c3 is secure.
Right. It's intact. Yeah.
We're hoping for a new direction. And we're hoping that we can bring the country and our people forward.
Absolutely. And once we're on the other side of this pandemic, hopefully we can meet in person, and I can make my way to the Bayard Rustin Center as well.
That sounds perfect to me. I didn't even have to ask the question. Thank you so much. All right, so now
I'm there.
Prince will be proud, but I appreciate your time, and we'll see you again soon, my friend. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Till next time.
So that was Denice Frohman, everybody. Wonderful conversation, wonderful work, wonderful person, poet, activist, educator. And I have to say, with each thing that Denice says, you can hear each one of those identities loud and clear and crystal. So really a wonderful evening, really the epitome of what the Power Hour should represent. So all props to Denice Frohman. Again, what a wonderfully engaging and meaningful and powerful and fabulous conversation with Denice Frohman. Thank her for being with us on the Power Hour. Thank you for being with us on the Power Hour. Please do come back to us. As I said at the outset, we are here 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, every single freaking weeknight. You also have the chance to see us and be with us in actual community, masked and vaxxed, safe and sound concert, masked and vaxxed, safe for the community. Please do join us. Help us find a new home for our center. Hear some incredibly fabulous music. Spend some time with an incredibly fabulous person, Jill Sobule. That's October 7th. Tickets to get are in the link on the comment section. We look forward to seeing you. If you're in the area, anywhere in the area, come as far as you need to come. This is going to be a special night. We sold out last time Jill was here, so please buy your tickets early and buy them often. And please do come back here to the Power Hour. You being here with us in virtual communion is so meaningful and so wonderful and so very much appreciated. Much love and respect for being here with us. We are here for you. Please be here with us. Until soon, as I said, much love and respect, my friends. Be good to each other. Be good to your family, chosen or otherwise. And most especially, my friends, be good to each other. You need it, and we need you here with us.
We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.